Make It, a podcast by Bonsai Creative that helps creatives in film get where they're going faster by sharing the advice, knowledge, and insights of professional creatives across the film industry. I'm your host, Chris Barkley.
What's going on, beautiful people? My name is Sam Brooks. I'm an actor, a writer, a director. You might know me from Fear Street, Part 2, 1978. I played Arnie, or Travis from Stargirl, Seasons 1 and 3. I am excited for right now. I have the grateful pleasure of being in a movie called The Unraveling. That should be out sometime at the end of this year, beginning of next year. And I have a short film that's doing the festival circuit here soon. And that one's called For My Nephew. So thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. Much love, y'all.
Sam Brooks, welcome to the Make It podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. This is going to be a fun one.
I agree.
You are a young man, but you are a Renaissance man. And to give this audience a deeper sense of who you are, I'm going to read from a little bio. Of course, you can always correct me at the end, amend to it, say, hey, let's fix that. But here it goes. Sam Brooks is an actor, writer, and director with 23 credits to his name. Sam is known for the feature films Fear Street, Part 2, 1978 on Netflix, One More Dream, AM Radio, In These Streets We Haunt, and the forthcoming feature film, The Unraveling. Sam has also worked on several TV series, including Stargirl, Your Worst Nightmare, and Murder Comes to Town. Sam had his directorial debut in 2020 with his romantic, there's a little tearjerker piece in there too, but romantic short film, A Heart's Calling, inspired by a true story, by the way, in which he also earned a co-writer credit. Sam has worked with DC Comics, Warner Brothers, 20th Century Fox, and Sheridan Entertainment, and currently has 2 films in production. Sam attended the University of Tennessee and studied acting at the Fourth Wall Acting Studio in Nashville, Tennessee. Sam, how was that?
Damn, that was good. Do you have that written down?
I do.
Can you send that shit over? I need a bio, man.
I will. I'll clean it up.
Man, that was good.
And I'll send it right to you. And normally we start these conversations with the origin story, and we'll get to that a little bit. But for this audience, because you've booked some pretty significant roles at a young age, I think there's a piece of me that just wants to start this conversation differently than the others. And I want to talk a little bit about the process of being cast for Fear Street. Are there any tools, tactics, any steps or connections you made that would be useful to this audience, to those actors listening, that stood out to you during the casting process of Fear Street?
Yeah, that's a great question. And every casting director, I believe, is a little different. Every process is a little different. But I think from January of 2019 to February, I had about 7 auditions for Fear Street. And
wow,
I think it was just a good sign that they kept calling me back. A lot of those, I played it really safe, but still served the story. And so when June came around, 2 days before I got the audition for Arnie, I was wondering what happened to Fear Street, and I was checking it out on IMDb and stuff. And then I got 2 days later the audition for Arnie, and that was the last character I read for in February. And so I just read it, and they said he has music. There's music playing in the scene. Like, the action above was painting the picture of the music. He's having sex, and he's this character that listens to like punk music. He smokes weed. He's just that guy. And he's like, yeah, he's probably, spoiler alert, he might die first. He might be that guy. So I was like, I know this guy. I actually had a buddy who's a punk rocker, and I got some of his, I got his jean jacket with a patch on the back and whatnot. And I rolled myself a little cigarette to smoke in the scene. And I put the music that was playing in the action, I put that song on like quietly, so it wasn't too distracting, but it was there. And I just took the risk. But the main point is like, I had to make sure I was serving the story instead of just serving my ego by taking all these risks and trying to stand out with. And it comes off as too much. I didn't want it to come off as too many doings, too much, try hard. but if I could serve the story while taking the risk, and they look at me like in this box that you see right now, and then behind me, they can imagine exactly what they have in their head, like in the cabin and all that stuff. And I think I've done my job. And I was very pleased with how it came out.
A couple of things to dig into there. That's very interesting. Now, this is all during COVID, right? Like you couldn't.
No. This was.
Or this is in person.
No, this was self-tape.
This is so again.
All these were self-tape. Yeah.
Yeah. So this isn't them. This isn't you going into an audition. This is you self-tape, sending it. They're viewing the self-tape, and you're competing against a bunch of other actors that are self-taping, right?
Correct. Yeah, from LA, New York. Who knows? Like I guess a lot of places. All
over. So there is pressure there if you're trying to get this part to maybe overdo it, because it's interesting. Maybe what stood out for you was your ability to read the scene better than other actors, so that you created the set design and the wardrobe design most accurately, so that it complemented your performance instead of it feeling busy. I mean, how did you know you would hit that perfect balance between not going over the top and like nailing the scene's aesthetic?
I think at first I was like, this is going to be a bold move, but it has starting after like the sex takes place where Cindy's character comes in. It's like, what are y'all doing? So that was like the start, but I was like, I think I want to start it like in middle of the sex. So basically I'm just having sex with the wall in this audition kind of thing. And you see my back and it looks like I might be naked from the waist down. Anyways.
Right.
But at that point I was like, if I can watch this from start to finish and not feel a single bit of pushing, if there was no pushing there and it was just truly just being, then I'm cool with that. And I think it was good, because at the end of my slate, I just did the whole thing kind of in character. So at the end of the slate, I had these aviators on. I walk up and there's music playing. I'm like smoking the rest of that thing. And I was like, no marijuana was used in the making of these auditions, like kind of thing. And gave a little wink to the camera and just kind of wrote it out the whole time. And, when I sent it in, I was like, this could either go very bad. Like this could be too much of a risk, or it could work perfectly. And but at that time, my hair was just past my shoulders. It was just, I had the look. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, you probably nailed that. Had you auditioned without your hair there, I mean, this long hair, it goes perfect with the jean jacket or a leather jacket or something like that. It just fits.
Right. So and that's why I grew out my hair in the first place, to like pigeonhole myself for specific roles, like the druggie or the hippie or the college or high school jock dude. And then all I have to do is like show my chops, because I know I'll look that character. I already look it. So
yeah, that's so fascinating to me, because it is that competitive where if you don't have the hair there, then maybe you don't get the part, even though the performance is there, even though it's crazy. You just don't know how it all sort of turns out, or how it will turn out for you. Stephanie Black, who did a season in This Is Us, also talks about serving the story. How do you serve the story and not your ego in a self-tape?
It took me a long time to figure that out. It took me when I first started, I was on the opposite end of the spectrum there and serving my ego. And that's when the transition, I grew out my hair and I was undergoing that whole thing. But I think if you can take the audition or the sides that they give you, which are maybe a scene, maybe a page, maybe multiple pages, different scenes, you read it and you just kind of approach it as like, how do I see this? What story do I want to tell within this story? Because if you try to guess what they want, you don't know. You're never gonna guess. You can't psychoanalyze a casting director and try to get their vision directly. So it's like, what do I want to see? How do I approach this character? How do I think that they would go about this scene and still serve the story that's on the sides, like that, the overall story? Because they'll give you an actor's access. They'll give you a breakdown of the character and like the story synopsis and stuff. So it's just, you try to take all those pieces together and create a puzzle out of it. And it's like the finishing piece. It's like, if this works, if this is literally can be believable of what this character would do, then that's cool. One of my pull away from the performance. I think it has to complement the performance. It doesn't feel out of place.
Right. Yeah, there was this great horror short film, and I always recommend it. I think it's called Fetish. Yeah, Fetish. It's amazing. It's 20 minutes long. It's on Amazon. It's worth everybody's time. But I always, the part I'm disappointed with, the part I get the most disappointed with, is the choice that the writer and lead made to make him. He was playing off this other character he had created that was comedic a long time ago, and he has like this one. He's bald. He's like male pattern bald, except for this one piece of hair in the very front, and it like kind of sticks up. And it's like, yeah, nobody really looks that way.
Mm-hmm.
That's too much. You're serving something else. And for this story, it's more it's still a great short, like I said, and I still recommend it because it's so shocking at the end for a horror. And so it's like a weird film, but man, I think it would have went even further if you just make us believe this character exists in the real world by like letting him be insecure about that piece of hair, which is what he would really be in real life. He would try to figure out that hair, or he would shave that off, and it wouldn't be there. And I think sometimes you overdo it, but
might curl it, give it a little swirl or something.
Right. He made it cartoonish.
Yeah.
And the story didn't need that at all.
Kind of sounds like an alfalfa, Yeah.
It was like a bald alfalfa. That's exactly right. Yeah. And by the way, I loved alfalfa and the Little Rascals growing up. Alfalfa's not funny. I mean, he's funny, but he's not fun. The funniest one is Stymie by a mile.
Man,
Stymie by a mile.
I need to watch that again. I was actually watching clips. I had an audition where it was like kind of caricatures of Alfalfa. So I was going back through and watching, because Alfalfa that character was created way back in the day.
Yeah, you got to watch the original one, Sam.
Yeah, no, I watched the 90s one.
There's one episode. Yeah, the 90s one is bullshit. The original one's is the one you want. There's one episode where Stymie is starving, right? Because he's a black kid in the 1920s. He's hungry. He's walking around just trying to grift off people. He's trying to figure out a way to like get people's food. So he's like, robbing some guy's, chicken coop for eggs. He's just going to crack an egg and pour it in his mouth. But he's on the street and there's this guy telling him to get off the street from like 3 stories up. And he said, "Hey, mister, I bet you can't throw. I guess he had some food in his hand or something. He said, "I bet you can't throw that down here and hit me in the hand." He's just trying to grift him so he can get his food to eat it. And it's hilarious. It's hilarious. Yeah, it was something I can't remember exactly what it was, but he tricked him. He threw it down. And as soon as he threw it down, he went to go pick it up and a truck ran over it. Yeah. And it's just hilarious. It's just classic comedic setups that like will never get old, that are like good until the end of time. But anyway, I'm the tangent king. I do that all the time.
I tend to do that too. So I'm in good company.
Yeah. All good. I do love this job because in my role in the creative community, because I get to talk to creatives one-on-one, off the mic and on the mic. When I'm off the mic, that thing you mentioned about being able to watch yourself without feeling one moment or 1 second of push. Mm-hmm. And I equate that to being honest with yourself about your professional benchmark or what it takes to actually hit a professional benchmark. And I can always tell when I speak to someone how good the thing is they're about to try to show me, because they'll start with caveats. Well, this is great for a blah, blah, blah budget. Or this is good for how young this person is. Or there's a caveat that happens before that tells me right away, I'm going to have to listen to this with a grain of salt. Mm-hmm. Versus what I would tell a creative is try to reach the professional benchmark and do the most difficult thing in the world, which is be objective with yourself. Mm-hmm. Would you pay money for this work of art? And if not, just go back to the drawing board. It's okay. Everybody's running their own race. And they're running it at their own time.
That's $1 million question. And it's hard. It's harder than it. Being honest and your own critic, you have to be truthful with yourself, but I don't think you should ever be harsh with yourself.
That's exactly right.
You know your limits, and you know you juice. You know what kind of mojo you're bringing in, and I think you're right. I don't think you should start off with like, hey, this might be a perfect for this or this. Starting off with kind of like you're putting limitations from the get. I usually just send it and be like, hey man, hope you enjoy this shit.
Yeah. So also you have like this advantage of being just absolutely, different in the charismatic department. So, use what you got, right?
That's one way to put it. My teacher said something else growing up, but I'll take that. I'll take that approach.
Speaking of that, when did you know you wanted to live the creative life? Is there a moment that sticks out to you?
Yeah, I was junior in college. About this time, March Madness was going on. I was catching a buzz. I didn't have class that day. And my good buddy, who's still one of my best friends, comes in with a flyer and says, UT's putting on a short film. Auditions are at Hodges Library. I was like, well, shit, what does that even mean? And so we put on clothes like we were going to a business interview. Like I'm in a button-down shirt, slacks, pleated. I got nice shoes on, a belt tucked in. I'm looking good. And we went down there, and everyone had these headshots and a resume, and we didn't know what the fuck was going on. So we ended up auditioning anyways and signed up, and I got the supporting lead role in that short film. And it was like the grad students were putting on, and then they invited me to be in the 54 at the end of that year. And so those two things. And then I was at Steeplechase, and this telling the story. This woman I knew from high school was like, hey, you should come to my acting class. I think you'd be good. I was like, cool. Went to the acting class. He pulls me aside a week later and says, there's a workshop going on this weekend. Casting director from Chicago is coming down. You should sign up. Cool. Awesome. Signed up. Did her class. She pulled me aside and was like, hey, how long have you been doing this? And I was like, crazy story, like maybe a few months. And this is what happened. She was like, well, I'm going to call this agent, which was Melinda with the Avenue Agency. Left a voicemail. She calls me and was like, hey, I want you to come in, bring everything you have. And I was like, I've got nothing. Like, I don't know what a headshot is. I don't know anything. She's like, come in, just do a monologue. I was like, well, you're going to have to tell me what a monologue is, because I don't really know what that is. And so I ended up trying to do the Goodwill Hunting monologue when he's in a bar and he's telling that guy. And I couldn't get through maybe a third of it both times, just butchered it. And I was walking out, and I was like, sorry for wasting your time. And she's like, I want to work with you. And I was like, that was it. And I was like, all right, cool.
What do you think it was that made her say that?
I have no idea. My first response was, why? I was like, why? And she was like, I think you got something. I was like, man, okay, cool. I'm not going to argue there.
I love the story because you did the opposite of what I did in my. So Regina Moore, who's a casting director in town. Yeah, she's great. I met her 20 plus years ago.
Really?
And at the time I was waiting tables in Applebee's, and so many things happened at that Applebee's. It's crazy. I met my business mentor there. Well, through a meeting there, and Regina was in there eating. And this is back before like Applebee's was the neighborhood bar, and like it was a decent place to go.
Was this the Applebee's in Berry Hill?
It was the one on Harding Place that's no longer there. And so for those listening, the two things we just mentioned are locations in Nashville, by the way. And if you come to Nashville, there's no reason for you to be on Harding Place unless you were trying to procure crack, heroin, or a sex worker. So, but back in the day,
depending on what part of Harding you're on.
What part of Harding? Yeah, Harding Place near the airport. Just for that one block, by the way. There's a lot of Harding that's great. So everybody, calm down. If you live on Harding Place,
like, whoa.
Yeah. So I was in that Applebee's, and she told me she was shooting a commercial for athletic people or whatever, and it was like a Reebok commercial or something. And I came just to give it a shot, same as you, Sam. And I went in the bathroom to sort of do that Dirk Diggler thing where, you sort of pump yourself up in the mirror, except I didn't pull my dick up. And then,
not the Diggler.
Yeah. So I'm pumping myself up. Don't act like you've not done it. So I'm pumping myself up in the mirror. You can do this. I've never done it before. Like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And this guy comes in, dark skinned black dude. He's only wearing Speedos.
What?
Yeah. He walks in the bathroom. He's only wearing Speedos. He begins to lather himself in the oils and he is jacked. He has a 12-pack. He has pecs.
Is this a Reebok swimsuit thing? Like, what?
I don't know what. Like, here's the thing, Sam. I did the opposite of you, and I shouldn't have. And Regina's told me this to my face that I should have just kept going because she probably didn't cast that guy because of that. Mm-hmm. I saw him and said, I have no shot. And I just bounced.
Oh, damn.
I didn't even do it. I was like,
damn.
I'm like, okay, I didn't bring my Speedo, I didn't bring my oil, and I didn't bring my abs. So, yeah.
Damn, you probably would have booked it too.
I probably would have. Don't do what I did, folks. Kiddos, do what Sam did.
But what was the lesson from that though? You bounced and then what happened? Regina hit you up and then.
Well, no, she didn't. Like, she just thought I was a guy who didn't show up. Like, so there was like, she knew me from Applebee's. So here's the crazy thing. I didn't even learn a lesson from it until like maybe decades later or decade plus later after I met with Regina face to face again, because I held the belief that I wasn't going to get that all the way up until the point she said, no, I wouldn't have. I think I remember that guy and that would have grossed me out. I wouldn't have cast him. And I'm like,
sounds like her. Yeah.
So then I learned the lesson that, hey man, just go do you. It's that whole Jim Carrey commencement speech thing. Like, hey, you can fail at something you don't want. So you might as well go for something you do want. Kind of thing, right? So that was the lesson I learned from that. Speaking of lessons, who is Brad Brown? And what impact has he had on your life?
He is the man, the myth, the legend himself that made me act. So in high school, I went to Hillsborough High School in Green Hills, and I did the International Baccalaureate program, which my parents made me do. And I'm glad they did because I was a little shit. And I wasn't great at school. I was focused on sports until I went into that program. And it's either you take a world history of like arts and culture or you do theater. And so it's like, I'll do theater, I'll build sets, and it's all good. So the first year I built set and he made me be like a little role in Macbeth where I ran out and I died, and that was cool. But my senior year, for the final project, he wanted to write a Roman comedy, like in the round. And he cast me as the lead and this other guy, Anthony, as like my twin brother. And Anthony's black, I'm white. It's just a huge running joke. And we're just trying to find like the twin brothers in the whole thing. And I have this Barbie doll named Bonnie, and it's ridiculous. It is. And then there was so much room for improv. So that made me feel a little more comfortable. But he really stretched and pulled me out of my comfort zone and was like, you're going to be the lead in this. And I was like this braggart soldier guy, like buff, and was like, what's up, bro? I was like, all this thing. And the first time I ever stepped on stage, my vision went black. And this voice in my head was like, you either stiff leg pass out or you continue on the scene, man. And so I kind of came back to and just kept going. And that was like the most exhilarating moment probably in my high school, like up until that life. Like there was nothing like live theater and having that energy because they're right there on you, like in the round. And like someone's phone went off with like bird tweets. And I was like, I didn't know chickadees were out this time of year. I was just having a blast, man. And I didn't touch acting until junior year of college. I didn't even think about acting. I was focused on kinesiology and trying to be either like a physician's assistant or a physical therapist. And then I just remembered once I got that short film, I was like, man, I actually really enjoyed this. Like I remember that play. And when that summer, junior year of college, after I got the agent and stuff, I called Brad Brown. It's the first person I called, and he gave me a list of books to read, like Power of the Actor, Ivana Chubbuck, How to Stop Acting, Harold Guskin, to name a few. And my senior year, I was reading those books like in front of my actual books in college, like in classes. So I'm like reading those while I'm in class and just studying up and just going hard. And I started telling people, I'm going to act. This is what I'm going to do. And everybody was actually pretty supportive. And once I graduated college, about June of 2016, so I gave myself a month, is when I called Melinda and was like, let's do this. And so like, thanks to Brad Brown and like he like kind of guided that ship, He
put Inception on you.
Yeah, he sure did.
He dropped something foundational on you that you remembered 3 years later.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. He's amazing. He's super talented. He was running the Nashville Shakespearean company or Shakespeare company, or I don't know if he's still doing that or not. But yeah.
Shout out to Brad Brown for inspiring the next generation of great actors. And he might still be. I think I looked on his website. It seemed like he was still up to that stuff. But it's always great when you run into a teacher who, isn't caught up in anything more than just being a great educator. And
that's really what he is as well. Yeah.
I think that's what stood out to me about him and in our research of him. Your dad told you must do what you have to do now so that you can do what you want to do later. Mm-hmm. If you have taken his advice, in what ways have you taken it?
Yeah, that was a gym that he gave me sophomore year of high school, I think, because he's, he sees this kid who's just focused on sports, and he's like, let's be realistic here, son. You're only going to get 5'10", 5'11". You're like $170. Come on, man. And he was like, you got to do what you have to do now so you can do what you want to do later. And it's basically just put in the work, and it might suck. And, the grunt work and building the foundation and building something that's going to be substantial in life. It's going to take a lot of work, and it might seem like you're not getting anywhere and it might suck, but just know that if you do what you have to do right in this moment, you can do whatever you want to later. And it's kind of something that he didn't really develop in his lifetime. So he just like drilled that into us so that we can kind of reach a higher level and succeed in whatever we want to do. So I thought, I could go, and that really hit me when I was like, I could take the GRE, I could go to grad school, I'd come out like 100,000 plus debt, whatever, or I can just dive in.
Yeah.
And I was like, that kind of, to me, this risk is like, just put all the eggs in that basket. That's kind of what I have to do now. If there's any shot of me being an actor, I didn't see it realistically of like after being in debt, trying to be like with a physical therapy, like PhD or whatever that would be. And then trying to pay that debt off when I'm trying to do a full-time job and then trying to act. It just didn't make sense to me. So I was like, if I'm going to do it, I have to do it right now.
Yeah.
And then hopefully that allows me to do what I want to do later.
I truly believe in that. That's an amazing story. And I've said this before with other guests, but it bears repeating. Super proud of you and the courage it takes to make that decision. You hear about people making that decision, but it's just something that becomes cliche. Mm-hmm. But when you zoom in to the details of what it takes to do it, it's akin to potentially blowing up your life.
100%. The amount of like, while you're young, right? That I heard when I first started, not really knowing anything. It's like, yeah, you might as well, while you're young. And I graduated. Even my dad was like, hey, when you're done dicking around, call me, like one of those things where it's like, yeah, good luck.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. And, we had a guest on late last year. His name's Michael McCrary, or Michael McCray. Sorry. My goodness. And he runs the Whistleblower Film Festival. And he himself was a major whistleblower, and he talks about like the courage, like the decisions you have to make because your girlfriend or wife or friends didn't ask to be a whistleblower.
Can you explain to me and hopefully the audience here what a whistleblower exactly? Can you break that down?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to do it because they're so important to our society and to our liberty. A whistleblower is someone who blows the whistle on a corrupt corporation or government entity. It's someone who is basically willing to risk their own safety, freedom, livelihood, because they're often fired. Usually a whistleblower is blowing the whistle on their own employer. In the case of Michael, he was blowing the whistle on the Clinton administration because he worked in government.
Damn.
And it was a $40 million case, but that's a powerful enemy.
Absolutely.
So he lost his wife, lost livelihood. It's wow. You have to be willing to crawl across the desert for your dream or for what you think is right for you. And so that's why I say it's It's not pandering at all. It's a massive amount of courage, and you're courageous in ways that I wish I could have been at your age. So kudos to you. I am curious how your parents took it at the time you decided to leave college to become an actor instead of staying in the medical field.
Not ideal at all. Yeah, well, I was always supposed to be the family doctor, Yeah. Once I could prove myself that I wasn't, just a jock kid, I got straight A's my junior and senior year of high school, and I really turned things around. And I had one of my greatest family friends started Results Physiotherapy, and I got really into that growing up, and he was a very big inspiration in life. His name is Greg Spurgeon, and Spurgeons are huge inspirations in my life. And
yep.
So I was like, that's the path, man. I see them being very successful. He did the thing. He started his own company. It's great. And like that, I can do that. That sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
But I never really thought about like, is that something I want to do? I'm like, I can make a good career. I'll be safe. I'll make some money. It'll be chill. And then, I didn't really tell him what I was doing while I was doing it. I didn't really tell many people, but I told a few buddies in college, and they're like, man, I could see that for you. So I was like, thanks, guys. Thanks. And then I got out of college. I graduated and was like, look, here's the deal. I'm going to go into acting. I'm going to put this on. I'm going to take a year, and I'm going to go into acting and put this on the way, like back burner. My mom's cool. She was chill. She's an interior designer, so she gets it. She's like, express your creativity while you're young. She was a while you're young kind of person. Mm-hmm. My dad was like taken aback. He was like, call me when you're done effing around and kind of all these things. And I was like, damn. Okay. I see how it is. So I was like, give me a year. If I don't book anything in a year, I'll go to school. Take my GRE and go to school.
Yep.
So thank God I booked something in that year. So that was good. Yeah. So not ideal. My brother was very supportive. My brother's my brother, and he had my back, but it was interesting to see the reactions, because it was kind of like, okay, do you even know what you're doing? Yeah. I didn't really. And I was just like, I'm going to figure it out. And I'm going to show you. I'm pretty competitive in that sense. When people are like, oh, you can't do that. And I'm always like, why? Why can't I? I think I can. And so.
Thank you for sharing that, Sam. That's awesome. And the lesson there is the power of putting yourself on death ground. And if you don't have anyone doubting that you can do something, maybe you don't have anything to motivate you outside of the thing that's in front of you. Those external motivations are great. And we talk about death ground. We talk about that, the old Sun Tzu story, which is you bring your troops to the shore of your enemy and you send the ships away.
Yeah.
The only way you're leaving this island alive is through that other army.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no going back.
That's how you approached it.
There's no going back. It's like, once I'm committed, I'm going for it. And it was great to have your family, your own parents be like, all right, sure. Good luck out there.
Yeah.
Good luck, kid. And you're just like, okay, mother. It's like, I'm coming in hot. And my dad is now my biggest fan.
Yep.
For sure. I had a callback for a movie in Canton, Mississippi one day, and my car wouldn't make it. And he was retired. So I was like, Dad, come on. I know you're not doing shit. Let me borrow your car. And it was like the first time I talked to him in like 6 months. And he was like, oh, okay, well, Canton's 5 hours, 5 hour back one day. I'll drive with you. Like, I'll come with you. That way you don't. I was like, okay, damn, I did not expect that. Sure. So we go down, we throw on the Allman Brothers. We grew up listening to the Allman Brothers. It's like his favorite band. We played some James Taylor, and we're jamming out. And he's just asking me how I've been, because we haven't caught up in a while. It was really, really special. And I go there and we had lunch, and it's like this little college town. Canton's really cool. I did the audition. 20 minutes later, I'm out of there. I'm smiling. I'm all happy. I did a great job in my head. So I was happy. He was like, that's it. And I was like, yep, that's it. Let's go home. And he was like, all right, let's go home. So we're driving home, and it was like a movie. The sun was setting, and we're headed out of Canton. It's quiet. He didn't say anything. He just looks over and he's like, you really like what you're doing, huh? And I was like, yeah, I love it. And he was like, proud of you for doing what you love. And I was like, damn, Daddy, like, don't look over here, man. That's amazing. It was really, from then on out, he was like my biggest fan. So that was really something to be grateful for. That was a blessing.
You probably have to make that into a scene in one of your future films.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. It reminds me of the ending of The Tinder Bar. I don't know if you saw that one yet, but George Clooney directorial debut, I believe. Really, really good movie. Ben Affleck's in it. He's the lead. but the kid in it is amazing. In that as well. Your dad has good taste. Allman Brothers, James Taylor. You are a bit of a musician as well. You play alto sax, guitar,
extreme
harmonica.
hobbyist, I'd say.
Yeah, you sing great. I've heard you sing.
Thank you.
Have you ever thought about recording an album?
I mean, yes and no. I don't. It's a whole nother beast. I've written a few songs, but then again, it's like I don't even know if that's the right format or what. It's a whole nother thing. And to tell you the truth, I've just been making up excuses. I would like to. I would like to record something, man. I have a few things in the works. Nothing that crazy, but I could see myself dropping a few tracks one day.
Yeah, I think the secret for you is to not listen to anything. Just go write what you want to write, sing what you want to sing, and you're already good at holding yourself to that professional benchmark. So you're not going to leave that studio with there being flaws that you can hear. So that's just the competitor in you. I wanted to talk a little bit about acting and get into some of the didactic of it a little bit for this audience. You're a non-SAG actor, but you're a SAG qualifying actor. So what's your take on going SAG or staying non-SAG? Do you have any advice for the audience here?
Well, I mean, Atlanta being a right to work state, and I don't know if maybe the Carolinas are as well, and Nashville and Tennessee is, and that's where pretty much everything I've done has been in Atlanta, like all the major stuff. So I haven't really seen a reason to join SAG, honestly. So if I went to New York or did a thing in LA or Kentucky, I believe even Chicago, then or Virginia, I'd have to. And that's fine. I would do that. But
yeah, not to piss off Bob Raines, who's the executive director of the Entertainment Commission here in Tennessee, but Kentucky does an interesting thing where they, just because you mentioned it, where they don't make you get a broker and try to sell the grants to anybody, that whole game. They just write you a check for the percentage rebate for shooting in the state. So
that's nice.
And they're being very competitive. And I think they kind of have to be. There's a whole other critique I have, which is like all these subsidies are a race to the bottom. Right? Mm-hmm. Like, oh, you're 28%, I'll go 29. Oh, you're 29, I'll go 31. You're 31, I'll go 33. And it's kind of all the taxpayer funding. And at some point, there's going to be a taxpayer that says, hey, what the hell, man? Right? Yeah. We'll shut it down.
Do you see it getting more competitive with the studio lot being built in Hendersonville, right? I think it's Hendersonville.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Hendersonville.
And then you have View, the virtual studio that just got built out of Bradley Parkway area. You have all these facilities that are coming here. Amazon's here, Oracle's here. You got all this money, all these facilities. You see that competition getting more fierce. Like, I'm curious to see like the Atlanta, Nashville, Kentucky kind of trio and how that's going to have a little battle royale maybe.
Well, we would call it second, Silicon Valley sort of, VC investor world would call that second to fifth mover advantage, right? Mm-hmm. So the first mover advantage was Atlanta. They showed that you could build Hollywood outside of Hollywood and it'd be bigger than, like, everything is shot in Atlanta. Way more stuff is shot in Atlanta than LA, right? Post still goes to LA a lot, but it's shot in Atlanta. Well,
they still cast pretty much all their leads out of LA and New York and whatnot. So it's like
there's a lot of the industry that's pieces that sort of flow through those veins. Mm-hmm. But Atlanta's laid out a model for everyone to repeat. And it doesn't matter what state you're in. If you're in Louisiana, you can look at that model and copy it. If you're in Tennessee and you're Bob Raines and you're Governor Bill Lee, you can look at that model and repeat it. Mm-hmm. If you're in Kentucky, you can look at that model and you can repeat it. And so states know what to do now. So they can kind of move and actually improve. They can say, okay, well, here's what Atlanta did. Here's the model. Here's where it's not good, so good.
Right.
And here's where we can. So, I know for a fact, just for example, that Bob Raines feels like, well, our advantage is we have the world's best musicians here. Mm-hmm. So what are we going to do? We're going to give 37.5% back on $50,000 spent on score for TV and for film. That's huge. Why? Because, and by the way, Nashville has suddenly become the second largest place for scoring in the world. Mm-hmm. Why? Because better musicianship really matters. Better musicians actually matter. Better studios actually matter. Mm-hmm. And then the cost of living here is much lower than the other places you might have scored. So now you're spending less on the budget, that rebate becomes more impactful, et cetera. So I know that's one way that he plans to compete. These studios that are being built, even worldwide stages in Spring Hill with our friends Kelly Frey and Priscilla Wise.
I know Priscilla. She's awesome.
She's incredible, right? So she's, that's building out. And so there is an infrastructure happening, and it's an exciting time to be in the Southeast if you're in film, I think in general. You just wrapped on your first lead role where you're carrying the movie in The Unraveling, directed by friend of the podcast, Katie Amon, and written by friend of the podcast and maybe a little more, Sarah Zanotti. How did your preparation change for that? What's the difference between carrying a supporting role like you have several times versus a leading role?
Well, yeah, it was definitely, it was because I've never had a role written for me specifically. So I felt more comfortable in the fact that they were like, hey, this role was written for you. I felt less pressure that way because it was kind of, in a way, I was already embodying the vision that they had going into it. And that allowed me to kind of focus. I think my biggest insecurity was, do I look old enough? Because I was playing 16 and 18-year-olds this whole time.
That's right.
And they're like, now you're like a 28, 30-year-old. And I was like, this little voice in me was like, dude, you don't look old enough, man. You're still 16 on all these shows and whatnot. But
yeah, Stargirl, you were in high school, right?
Oh, yeah, I was 16. In Fear Street, I was 18. One More Dream, I was 18, 17. Just, yeah. So it was, this is what I've been praying for. I was like, please, I would love an opportunity to show my chops on a deeper level with deeper, more emotional grit as an adult, coming from like an adult perspective. So it's everything that I've been asking for. And then when I got it, I was like, oh, shit, I hope I can deliver. And then it was the lesson of embodying the character. Instead of just forget everything, just embody this character, Yeah. And I'm not saying that in like a method way, like to totally transform and become your character. That's not my approach, but there are incredible actors and actresses out there that is their approach, but just embodying the essence of this character. And so I think that was a really, really pivotal experience for me as an artist. And overall, the experience was great. It was very challenging. But in the best way. And like it stretched me for sure. And it was great. It was really great.
I can't wait to see it. And I want to talk a little bit about this new vocation you're taking up with directing and pivot into that a little bit. But I have to say, just knowing you sort of off mic, if you will, off camera, you're funny. And
Thanks,
you make these like horror / drama films. And you act in horrors and in dramas. Are you going to do a comedy? Are you looking?
Oh man, I love comedy. Is like the bread and butter. Like if I could go rom-com route, I would do that. And there's not many out there. Not that I know. I don't know, but I love comedy. I think rom-com comedy, that would be a bread and butter type of thing.
Yeah, like if people follow you on social, they're not going to get like scary, creepy Sam Brooks, or they're not going to get like dramatic. Everything is gray. Sam Brooks.
You're like, dude, this guy's he's a bubbly weirdo, man. Like, what the fuck is this guy? Doing like weird. Yeah, I am a very like lighthearted, I think just fun kind of. I like everything's kind of like sunshine and rainbows kind of vibe. And I like when I act, so it's just so different than my everyday. I'm not, when I'm playing a bully or an asshole or a druggie or, I'm playing this guy with a bunch of just like emotional heaviness and depth. It takes me completely allows me to be something else for a little bit, and it's a challenge and it's fun because then you start digging in and I don't know, it's a whole process, but I really enjoy it. And I think sometimes when it's comedy, it feels a little too close to home. I can get in my head a lot that ways as well.
Well, I can't wait to see you in it, but I do want to go back to what you said, or see you in a comedy, I should say. But I do want to go back to that last comment, digging deep as an actor. Mm-hmm. before we transition over to sort of your directorial chops. What do you consider your best performance out of all the things you've done so far, and why?
I hope it's The Unraveling. I really do. I really hope so, because, well, the One More Dream, that character was heavy. Had an alcoholic father who abused him. He like tinkered in heroin. That whole experience like was deep and interesting. But I think this one, I hope The Unraveling, because one, it's my latest work, and I hope to always keep progressing as I keep acting. So I hope each work gets a little bit better. That's the goal, right? And it was, this guy is relatable, so relatable, and they've all been relatable, but this is the first time I got to be like an adult and have that depth and bring in all the knowledge that I've gained. Like as a teen, sometimes I have to like my voice will be a little higher, and then I have to think like I don't have all this wisdom as a 17-year-old kid.
Yeah.
So I have to kind of dumb that down. And then like, but this guy, he's late 20s and his 30s. And it's like, I can bring everything in my life or whatever I've learned. I can bring it all and I can just do that. And that's okay. And that's acceptable. So it was just really cool, I think, because I had a deeper well to pull from.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I can't wait to see it. Like I said before. And, I've spent the last week in the world of Sam Brooks, so I'll let you know if it's your best performance or not.
Yeah, thanks, man. Just be honest. Give it to me straight, man.
I will. You can you can count on that from me. I promise you. I'll be straightforward with you. But like you said earlier, not in a cruel way. I never do anything cruel. It's not worth it.
Right.
Like coaches that yell, parents that yell. I never understood that. It's like you ask them to be composed, but you can't compose yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So what the hell? Let's talk about directing, because you have directed 2 short films. One's A Heart's Calling, and your latest one is For My Nephew. That's the one that's about to hit the festival circuit. You like working with a friend of the podcast, friend of Bonsai, Dustin Heyer. He's awesome.
Yeah,
I've worked with him before on a short film called Gateway that Matt Williams just directed and co-wrote. But I wanted to ask you how you came across the story. Were you the one that came across the story on A Heart's Calling?
No, a good buddy of mine, Dallas.
Okay.
This is about his life.
Oh, wow.
And so he, one time, it was 2019, maybe Halloween. Anyways, it's not important. But he hit me up and he gave me the rundown and what it was, we wanted it to be like. And he had this little animated short. It was like in a heartbeat or like a heart's beat, but it was really beautiful. And he's like, I want something that tells this story. Yeah. And like incorporates my life and all this stuff. And I just read it and heard him out. And I was like, man, I would love if you give me a chance to direct this. And because I see it. And we started writing. So where it started from where it ended is completely different from like the storytelling aspect. Which, we had Dustin and Christopher Gentle, and then talk about score. He's awesome. Nailed that score. He's incredible. And we had all this, like, it basically went into a writer's room and developed the story. And I thought, from the inspiration, it's an animated short with no words. And the music was a character of its own. And so I was like, we need to do it like this, like a live action Pixar kind of feel. If we can tell this story through nonverbal communication and this beautiful score, backing that, then we've done a damn good job.
Yeah.
And it was really different. It came out nice. And we shot it, I think, in 2 days and for like $500. Lachlan Table was nice enough to give us the place for free. And Eastland Church was another place that gave us a chapel for free. And everybody was just loving the story and chimed in. And it was really, really beautiful.
That whole East Side is so amenable to filmmakers and creatives. We've used the East Side Church before, for example. Lachlan Table happens to be a top 5% restaurant in Nashville. Mm-hmm. How did you get that location?
They just loved the story. They loved the story. And they're like, yeah, we're in. That's cool. You can come in like in the morning and then you have to be out by 3. I'm like, cool.
I was going to say, because they're busy, like
Yeah.
to get them shut down is kind of great. And so to be behind the camera, I guess you kind of, that first time you fell in love with it a little bit and decided to do it again with For My Nephew, completely different story. One story is about being gay in the Bible Belt.
Correct. Like coming from a Church of Christ and being born and raised as a gay man and trying to understand what your heart's desire is and being still a lover of Christ and practicing Christianity. It's really cool.
Yep. And a story everybody should watch and try to understand the complexity of. And then, and it's something Kaylee Bailey, the great editor and writer, has talked about on this podcast, just having to be, raised religiously, but also having her own identity and how she worked through that. It's worth everybody going to listen to after they listen to this. And then the other film is really about the perils of the company you keep. And even when you try to get out of something, those people will always drag you back into something. And that's the short film For My Nephew. So why this one? And why this story? Because you wrote this as well. And why did you choose to direct again? It's starring a good friend of the podcast, Dean Shortland. So
I love Dean. So many, well, it's the same. So I don't know. The idea came to me. At first, I just kind of wrote it as like whatever. I wanted it to be like a to be continued series. And I was like, this is cool. It's a cool premise. Like you have this guy, Walter Julius Brown. I kind of got like this Tarantino like air about it. I was like, okay, cool. I'm seeing it. I see it. And then I just had to start writing it down. And when I wrote it down, I didn't really understand like what I was writing, if that makes sense. It wasn't until we started shooting it and I started seeing it in real time come to life. I had all these visions and ideas of shots and how I wanted it to go, but then the actors brought something completely different than what I was seeing in the best way possible. And I was like, oh, okay. And then working with Dustin and Larkin and Grant and all these guys that we just did These Streets We Haunt, we did Hearts Calling, and now this. So it's like we had this flow going on and everyone was ping-ponging. We're like, okay, here's my vision. The actors would like go in, do their thing. And then me and Dustin would just ping-pong. He's like, oh, this camera movement would be perfect for your vision. And Larkin, it was just a beautiful, like it was totally a giant community where everyone was able to chime in and we would just riff on the fly and then just kind of make it work.
But this being only the second thing you've directed, what would you change? How would you improve? If you had to shoot this all over again, how would you?
We had like one light, we had one light.
You had one Joker or something like that? Or what did you use?
We had like one like China ball.
Oh, okay. Got it.
And then, like in the house scene, we had like a few like keynotes and we had those like, I don't know, my grip vocabulary isn't that great. So we had these like little lights and like the long lights you can put places and whatnot. And so I would love to have like more, more grip equipment, more gear and that sort of sense. Like there's a generator in the back of one shot that I missed, but at the same time, it's like, it could make sense. It's not doing anything. It bothers me, of course, but we also had only 13 hours to shoot this thing.
Oh, wow.
So we shot it for $0.99. I finished writing it while I was in Miami. So visiting a friend and I cast it from Miami and all like the locations. And then I was like, guys, I'm getting back. And the next day we shoot. Like that was the schedule because that's just when everyone could do it. It's like, you guys just got to trust me. Okay. I'm gonna break it down over Zoom, but just trust me on this and we're going to rock it. First day, 6 hours, second day, 7 hours, and we're done.
You guys shot this like a 48 or a 54.
Yeah.
So is that where it's going to go? Are you guys going to try to put it like, I guess it can't go on a 48 because it's not a competition, but where are you going to try to put it? What's the plan for this short?
We kind of made it so, like I said, the vision was to be continued. Like I wanted to be continued at the end because you're like, oh man, I want to watch more. But then I thought, what if it felt like the beginning of a movie? You watch it and then the title For My Nephew comes up and you're like, oh shit, I would love to see the rest of that. So I kind of started shopping it around and we shot this in February of 2020. And since I'm not paying anybody, I bought their gas and food and they did the kindness of their own hearts. I didn't rush anything. Tony did the sound mastering, Christopher on the score, Dustin on the edit color correction. And I was just like, hey, whenever you get it done, I don't care if it's like 5 years later.
Yeah.
But, you know, fast forward 2 years, like a couple months ago, Tony was like, hey,
Start
man.
to care.
You know, well, Tony hit me out of the blue. I forgot. Like, honestly, it was just like so far in the back. He hit me out of the blue. Said, hey, man, we got a surprise for you. Here you go. Like, first color edit, sound master, scores put to it. And I'm like, holy shit, this is good. Like, way better than I thought it was going to turn out. And then so the plan is just send it off to festivals. I got it, I think 2 in Austin, 1 in San Diego, 1 in Catalina, 3 in Nashville, and then 2 in Atlanta, maybe 1 in Atlanta.
Awesome. We have some free codes for festivals. So let me know if you want to submit to some places that you haven't submitted to.
Yeah, the more the merrier.
Yeah, great. We're partners with a bunch of festivals around the world. So that's super cool. And I did see the web series feel of it. I was a little shocked by the ending. It was like so abrupt. And now that you tell me that, it makes perfect sense. Like, okay, we're going to follow the story of where this goes shot to shot, or maybe it has the potential if you get financing and you're able to do it and you fall in love with the project even more.
But that's where like the kind of Tarantino vibe comes in. Like we wanted to do after that, it would be 3 years before, and you see Walter Dean's character and Big Fella all working together. Because the whole thing is like he beat up his cousin just to get Walter Julius Brown back in the game because he knew he would do anything for his nephew.
Yeah.
And so then Big Fella and Dean orchestrated this whole thing. He was going to come to me, I'm going to give him the money, and we're going to get him to do the job that we need him to do.
Right.
And so that was the whole.
Yeah. It's the last Dave Chappelle story that he tells about Iceberg Slim and like pimping. That's kind of what it's like. It's like you're the mark and you don't know you're the mark. You know,
exactly.
It is beautiful in that way, and I thought it was shot well and acted well. I thought Dean does what Dean does, Dean Shortland, where he steals things. And I think in a short film, you have to be careful, make sure all the performances are balanced out. Because Dean's so good that he can create an imbalance in the performances because he's so experienced at that sort of thing. So kudos to you. I can't wait to see where this journey, the directorial journey and writing journey, goes with Sam Brooks. You've been awesome. You've been great with your time. I wonder if I can hit you with some speed round questions real quick.
Do it. Let's go.
All right. What are the 2 best pieces of advice you've received so far in your career, and who did they come from?
Oh, man. I think do what you have to do now so you can do what you want to do later. I think that was just like something that stuck with me. That was my father. Mm-hmm. And I think William Arnold with the fourth wall, serve the story, not your ego. I mean, that's been huge. I said that at the beginning, and that came from him. The fourth wall, I would not be here without them. So I think those 2 are keys.
Beautiful. Yeah. It's William and his wife.
Yeah,
they both run that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they really live that. I mean, you don't see them out there serving their ego in any way whatsoever.
Right,
they're just running their acting studio and crushing it every day.
It's insane because they started, I think, in 2016 or 2015, and then like with maybe 3 classes, and 10 to 15 in each class. And now they have a community of over like 200, 300 people. You're just like, holy shit.
Yeah, they're the real deal for sure. And look, that's no shade to Nashville Acting Studio or any of the studios we've had on. I just appreciate what they've been able to accomplish and the talent they've churned out. Outside of Matthew McConaughey, which creatives do you most admire and want to emulate, and what do they do from a technical or skill standpoint that makes their work stand apart?
Wow. Great question. Tom Hardy's incredible. I love Will Smith. I grew up watching Fresh Prince. I just saw him in King Richard. I mean, he's never disappoints. Samuel L. Jackson's phenomenal. Mahershala Ali's phenomenal. There's a lot. I mean, even Shia LaBeouf like is fucking sweet. Mm-hmm. Man, I can go on. I tend to like characters that actors play. Like just like taking things from characters that they play. And I think that's, Peaky Blinders, like that whole ensemble is just nuts.
So underrated.
It's nuts. And so I don't know if I have a favorite, to be honest with you. I have a hard time with that question.
Well, it's Matthew McConaughey, but I didn't let you answer that.
No, I mean, Matthew McConaughey is phenomenal. I don't know if there's any order to it. I think they're all different. I think Matthew McConaughey's whole essence resonates with me a lot.
Yeah.
As like a human.
Absolutely. I think that's great. You're around a lot of folks.
Mm.
What, acting, directing, writing, what are the biggest creative and business mistakes you see newcomers making?
Man, make sure your sound's good. And your lighting's on point. Because if you have something with shitty sound, it's not gonna. You kind of chop the legs off right there.
So you're talking about self-tape again?
Self-tape for sure, but just projects in general.
Oh, got it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like sound is key.
So how do you keep your sound in both those scenarios? Just to go a little deeper, one level deeper, how do you ensure that your sound is great?
I have a little studio for my self-tapes, and there's a shout out to Rode. There's a little Rode mic. I use my phone. It's really all you need. I got the 13 or whatever. And so I plugged the Rode mic into the phone. It's a directional mic, and it's really great. It kind of cuts out a lot of that background hum and the noise. Make sure there's no like refrigerators or anything humming around you.
Yeah, that's a nuanced take, because where people miss and waste a lot of money is they don't ask directional or omnidirectional. So you go home with the omnidirectional mic, you're like, damn, I'm getting shitty sound. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But it's not something that's necessarily in giant print on the box.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't. If you don't know, you're not going to know.
Yeah. So make sure ask questions if you don't know. That way you get the directional mic. You don't waste your time, your money, and your sound, like you said, is great. This is a favorite question of the podcast and of the audience. If you had 1 month to teach someone how to act, what are the first 3 things you would teach them? So this is a person off the street. Somehow they got a gig and they are completely unprepared. And they've come to you and said, Sam, I got 1 month. Make me an actor.
Everything you think you know, throw it out the window. It's like, unlearn everything you think you know. And embody your essence. What can you bring to this character? And there's no right way to do this. So just keep that in mind,
Okay, so number 1 is unlearn.
Unlearn. Yeah, unlearn everything you know. Throw all that out of there. So that way we start with like no limitations. Mm-hmm. Number 2, there's no right way to do this. There's little techniques like not blinking so much, keeping your face still. But as far as like approaching this or whatever, like a technique that you come at it, there's no right or wrong way to do it. And then number 3, I think you have to bring yourself. You have to bring yourself into it. Like, don't try to be anyone else. Just whatever you are, we're going to capture that, So don't try to be something or someone else, but, we need to capture you, I don't know. Maybe that's not why I'm coaching, man.
No, it's beautiful. So for those listening and keeping score at home, number 1 is unlearn everything you know. Number 2, there's no right way to do it. Just a few techniques, keep your face still, don't blink so much, but there's no right way to do it, which I think perfectly leads into number 3, which is double down on you. Mm-hmm. Double down on you. And it's true, because when you watch casting tapes, those actors that get cast seem to just, they're not over the top. They're not low energy, but they're just themselves, but embodied in some character.
Right. Exactly.
Just to make the question more round, I guess, or the answer more round, or maybe both, is there anything you would do to help that person unlearn everything or focus on being themselves?
Man, that would have to cost you $200 in a monthly fee to take the masterclass. No, I'm just kidding. I think it's one of those things where it's like, if people come in with expectations of, I need to be like this, or am I standing there? Like, what is it like this? Like, I heard all this stuff and blah, 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 but like all this external knowledge that they're coming in with. I think it's just, you're building barriers and limitations and walls and all sorts of shit. So it's just like, hey man, forget everything. Just read the script. Just read it how you would talk. Just read it, whatever, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
And like, okay, like if you were this person, like what would you do? Like forget what you think I want to see. What would you do? You know, and let's go from there. We'll figure it out. You know,
it's a fascinating question when you find out a lot of people don't know who they are.
Oh,
and then you're confronted with it. It's like, oh my God, I don't know what I would do. What would I be like? And for me, I would just tell them to go Dirk Diggler in the mirror. You know, I'm glad they have Sam teaching instead of me, because I would just tell them.
You just got to stand in the mirror and flex. I'm just going to let you know.
Yeah, just go flex in the mirror for a little bit. How do you develop an impression? You do a killer Matthew McConaughey. I don't know if you want to share it with us, but how do you develop it? You also have accents that you do. You have Cockney and British and Southern. Where do you start when you need to develop an impression or an accent?
I just listen, man. I have like I've always been able to, like, as a kid, if I hear something, I just like, I can hear it in my head, like whether it's like the guitar riff or the bass line, or if it's like a sound, I could like try to match it. I just hear it. So with McConaughey, I just listen to a video of him talking, and then I can like basically like a songbird or like a mockingbird, like hit it back at you.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of, I like watch real life people with that accent. And then kind of go from there. Sometimes the videos that are trying to teach you on YouTube can be a little difficult because they're like the O sound makes a ooh. And you're like, I don't want to, just start talking, you know. I'll figure it out.
Is there an accent that you do, or an impression that you do that, you know, maybe I wouldn't know, or this audience wouldn't know, or even your close friends wouldn't know that you do?
No, I mean, I'm pretty open with that.
Gotten good at.
I'm pretty open with the accents, man. I've been working on like a little, if there was like an alien voiceover, you know, like what would that sound? What would that sound like? You know? I have this script that I wrote years ago, and it's kind of like a Kurt Vonnegut style.
Yeah. Kurt V.
I was just thinking, like, what would this alien sound like if it was to talk about the humans being in a galactic zoo? And I was like, you know, like just weird shit like that, man. And so I mess around with stuff like that. And then I swear, if my house was bugged, people would like, this guy needs to be in an asylum. This guy talks to himself 70% of the day.
Yeah. Damn, that gave me a nice little visual right there. It's like, okay, maybe it would be cool to actually have like found footage of Sam in his house.
Oh man,
that'd be a cool short film.
It would be weird. Like I pass like a reflection, I'm like, you fucker. He's like, don't you look at me. You know, like shit like that. Playing my Congo drums, and it was just like just going off and like shit thing. And you just gotta keep on playing. You know, you just gotta keep on playing the bongos so the cops are calm. You know, dumb shit like that.
Green light.
That's your green light.
Yeah, green light. That's it. Do that. Wait, do that one more time.
That's your green light. All right. Just keep living, huh?
That's perfect. My friend Casey Fuller does a great McConaughey as well, but I think his is like cartoon McConaughey, and yours is McConaughey. That's pretty spot on. Sam, I've loved this. This has been a great conversation.
Like you said, man, we could go for at least three full podcasts.
Yeah, we're gonna do a round 2, and then we'll do some sessions together, off mic, off camera, musically. We can write whatever. I just think you're a guy who is just more than a rising star, and you're a shooting star. You have the it factors, and it's just going to be so much fun watching you ascend and do your thing. So I just can't thank you enough for joining me on a conversation. Can you tell everybody where they can find you on social media, the internet, or maybe even see some of your movies, some of your work?
Yeah. I got an Instagram. I'm pretty, that's all I got. That's at Story of Sam Brooks. You can peep it out if you want to follow. If not, no hard feelings. You can catch me in Fear Street on Netflix, part 2, 1978. Just be warned that you will see my butt cheeks. And then you could catch me on Hulu with Your Worst Nightmare, season 3, episode 4. Amazon Prime, These Streets We Haunt. I believe that's also on Tubi. I got something coming out on Long Slow Exhale, which will be on Spectrum and then BET this year. And that debuts on the 3rd of April. I'm in the 3rd episode of that. And then, am I missing anything? Oh yeah, HBO Max and CW Stargirl. And that is it, I think.
That's amazing. And just for this audience, this was recorded on March 27th. So these will be out. Some of these will be out by the time you guys are listening to it, but that shouldn't stop you from going to listen to it. And yes, tonight is Academy Awards night, and I, pushed off the temptation to ask Sam what movie of the year should be or what the best actor should be or whatever.
I don't even know who's nominated. I don't pay any. I didn't even know that was tonight, man. I live under a rock, dude. I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's tonight. The best film I saw that made me feel the best leaving the theater, and I saw it 3 times, was Come On with Joaquin Phoenix. It's not nominated. And so of the ones that are nominated, I really love Coda. Coda made me cry both times I watched it.
I've seen that one. Oh my gosh. It was so beautiful at the end when she was singing and signing. Oh man, got me.
Amazing. The Hand of God is amazing, also on Netflix. Most shocking film is easily Titane. Of all the movies I saw in 2021, like if you want to just make your eyes bleed in the best possible way, watch Titane. That is amazing filmmaking. So we'll see how it all turns out. But we'll end on this. I started this conversation, Sam, saying that you were young, but you were a Renaissance man. And we've talked about that throughout, but you also do poetry. You also have an alter ego named Little Alteef.
Oh yeah, Little Alteef.
And I understand that you can beatbox Disney songs. So is there a Disney song that you can beatbox for us?
You got to pull that up. Okay. Let me see. What about this might not be Disney, but Harry Potter is always a good one. Kind of like hitting a dubstep Harry. You know, I was thinking about this one the other day, matter of fact, and it's like, and you have like little answers, like Ronald Weasley, like shit like that. I think would be kind of cool.
That's absolutely dope. That's fire. That's fire.
Just throwing it down, man.
Well done. How many beatboxes do you have like in your repertoire of these movies, of these like
I got a Rolodex. I got a Rolodex for sure. Shrek is one of them. Mario is a Super Nintendo, you know, with those sounds like let's go, da 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 da, wow, you know, like shit like that.
But how did this become a thing, like a hobby for you?
I don't know, man. I've been me and my buddies were freestyling since we were like 9th grade, and before like we found out what instrumentals were, we were beatboxing, and then I was like, why doesn't anyone take like Disney songs? I'm sure they probably do, like Disney songs and all these like very quotable things and make EDM or beatbox or just like dubstep music. And if I could, I would. I don't really want to take the time to learn how to produce like that. But if there's someone out there that's like, damn, kid, that's a good idea, let me know.
Yeah.
So we'll see if we can get some notoriety from it.
Yeah, he's not giving you permission to steal his idea. He's giving you permission to collaborate
with him. Let's just collaborate
on his idea. Yeah. So just to be clear on that. And yeah, I'm with you, man. My heart warms every time I see somebody with a pencil and a fist on a desk.
Yeah.
Right? Like just take it back to the beginning.
With the 2 pencils, man.
Yeah.
You know, like you have the pencils and I was like, yeah.
Exactly. Like that's before instrumentals. That's like you make your own instrumental, then somebody can beatbox with that and somebody can flow over top of it. That's the origins of a perfect cipher to me. So yeah.
I agree with you. And there used to be a lot of underground ciphers here in Nashville, and that's how I got my name Pillsbury Flowboy.
I love when I learn something new. Pillsbury Flowboy. Well, Mr. Flowboy,
you know,
you're a blast.
Man,
you're amazing, man.
Chris, man. Thank you so much. This is an honor.
Absolutely. Honor's all mine. And let's catch up, do some coffee, do some drinks, whatever.
Sounds great.
Absolutely. And I wish you luck, but you don't need it. You don't need the luck. You're going to be just fine, brother.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yep. Well, here I'll end my luck to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Gobble it.
Yeah, I'm gonna eat that.
All right, Sam. Be good, brother.
Man, thank you so much, y'all. Everybody, thank you for listening. It's been a real honor. Thank you so much. Much love to all of you.
Much love to you as well, man. Take care.
See ya.
Peace.
Peace.
You've been listening to the Make It Podcast. To find out more information about this week's topics, including links to relevant blog posts, projects, and indie creatives, please visit our website at www.bonsai.film. If you haven't already, you can join our podcast community on Apple Podcasts or the podcast app of your choice by searching for Make It Bonsai Creative, and the show will pop right up. You now have the opportunity to support the production of this podcast. If you love Make It and are a true fan of what we're trying to accomplish in the indie film community, please visit www.bonsai.film and click Contribute. Contributions start at only $5 monthly. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at _Bonsai Creative and on Facebook by searching for Bonsai Creative. You can provide feedback to us via email at contact@bonsai.film, and you can follow me, Chris, on Twitter at FlamingYourHeart. That's FlamingYurHeart. And of course, if you're looking to take a big step towards your filmmaking success, go to www.bonsai.film and click on Services to explore a variety of offerings from keynotes and panels to pitch readiness assessments and so much more. You have everything to gain. Until next time, be better, be creative, be engaged, and thank you for listening.